The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Can somebody please get Jules the lawyer on the phone right now so we can get her reaction to the news that just happened minutes ago from when I'm recording this, that Jordan Romano has been non-tendered by the Toronto Blue Jays. Yes, their closer, Markham native Jordan Romano, the all-star from the 22 season and the 23 season, has officially been non-tendered by the Toronto Blue Jays, making him a free agent. So first, let me just explain what non-tendering is, just for anybody who doesn't understand. Each year, every player who's on the 40-man roster who has 6 years, less than 6 years of MLB service time needs to be tendered a contract. That just means if you're on the 40-man roster, you have less than 6 years of time in Major League Baseball, the team each offseason around this time has to say, hey, yes, we will pay this player next season. They will stay on our roster. And if you don't say that as the team, the player gets put into free agency. They just get to go and sign with whoever they want. They could come back to you if they really want to. But so that happens every offseason for every player who's on the 40-man, who has less than 6 years of service, and they need a new contract. So Jordan Romano today, he's facing the non-tender deadline, and the Blue Jays have not tendered him a contract for next season. And the number that they would have had to pay Jordan Romano next season, which the arbitrator would have decided, because you got to go to arbitration when they need a new contract like this, would have been around $7.75 million. That's how much Jordan Romano would have been paid next season. So the Toronto Blue Jays sat here on November 22nd, and they decided $7.75 million is too rich of a contract for our closer. They don't feel that Jordan Romano, who's coming off last season where he only appeared in 15 games and had his elbow surgery in August, which is a very important point because he's been out for all of last season. He didn't play the majority of the season. Like I said, only 15 appearances. But he didn't have his elbow surgery until August. So there must be some sort of delay with the recovery timeline in that he probably won't be ready for when pitchers and catchers report to spring training, or might not even be ready for the regular season when that begins in early April, late March. So the Blue Jays clearly know something here, but also they don't want to spend the money on the cross the fingers hope that Jordan Romano is the closer that we saw in 22 and 23. Because as I mentioned earlier, he was an all-star in those years. Jordan Romano was one of the best closers. You could argue the best closer at the time at his peak in those seasons. In 22 and 23, Romano had 36 saves in each of those seasons. And in 22, he had 6 blown saves. And then in 23, he dropped that number to 4 blown saves. So top of the game closer that you have, and a hometown guy who's created a great aura around him, and he's beloved in this market. So it really sucks to see that the Jays are moving on from him when they even threw out the possibility that he could return if the Blue Jays were in a playoff race. Clearly none of that happened, but they don't look at that let's say call it $8 million price tag for Romano next season, and they don't think it's worth it. But my question for them is, the bullpen is already so bad. The Blue Jays last season had the 29th ranked bullpen in Major League Baseball. Now they're going into next season with more questions. Now they have to solve this through free agency, but you had a guy who you knew was going to be good for you, but you don't trust the injuries coming off of, so you're going to go solve it with a mystery. I don't understand if the logic here is very sound unless they know that there's somebody in free agency, or maybe it's Chad Green that they just want to promote, but then there's still holes in the bullpen. They need to fix this bullpen immediately for next season, because the Blue Jays management and ownership and everybody around the team plans to be a contender in the 25 season, but they can't be a contender if their bullpen isn't working. It's a no-go. It's a non-starter. They're not going to be good if, once again, they have the 29th ranked bullpen. So you have a guy in the organization that you can tender the contract, go to arbitration, you give him the $8 million, and you know that you're going to have a solid arm once he's healthy. It's just money. There's no salary cap. You don't need to be cheap with the dollars. I want to understand from them, why isn't this the guy? What about his game do you see that is going to fall off a cliff here if you bring him back next season for $8 million. They don't think that number's worth this player, but he's done nothing on the field except get injured for one full season. That has shown that he doesn't deserve that money. That's where I'm left here just wondering, they better do something here big in free agency. They better make this bullpen good, and you better not miss Romano, because this is going to be another blunder, another stain on the resume of this front office if this thing doesn't work out. If Romano goes to another team on a buy low deal, on a cheap deal for half this price, let's say, but he's still this all-star, you would have been like, oh, we should have just paid him that money because then we just get him. Who cares? So I don't know. It's really a wait and see with this Blue Jays offseason to see how they rebuild this bullpen. But it's going to be sad to see Romano go. And there's always the possibility that I'm ruling this out right now with how I was talking, but I should leave open the door a crack for the idea that Romano re-signs with the Blue Jays at a lesser deal than the $7.75 million he would have gotten arbitration. If he loves Toronto that much, they non-tender him like they did today, and then tomorrow they re-sign him at a lesser price. But I don't know. I think somebody out there is going to look at Romano's resume and give him more money than the Blue Jays are going to be willing to pay for him. But I shouldn't rule out the possibility that, hey, in a couple days here, there's another report that the Blue Jays are bringing him back. But I honestly don't think that's going to happen, and they're just going to try and rebuild this bullpen through, I don't know, some sort of piecemeal free agency, just group of players that they bring in. So we'll see how that goes. Let me know your thoughts about Jordan Romano leaving the Toronto Blue Jays. I know that he has a lot of fans here in this market. Like I mentioned, Jules the lawyer. We're not going to see her TikToks at the game anymore. We're all there to see her anyway, so she keeps going to the game. The fans will keep showing up. But yeah, let me know what you think. That's it for me tonight. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world if you chose listening or watching right now, and I appreciate you for that. Don't forget to hit like and hit subscribe on the channel, the Jesse Blake Sports Report YouTube channel. Good night from Toronto.
And that is how it's done.
The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, the guy that likes to hear his name twice in one sentence. Sure, I know him. No, he doesn't have an ego at all.